I'm going to talk a little bit about converting a GM style Nv4500 to fit on a Cummins diesel. Now, GM uses a 1 1/8 inch shaft like this with 22 teeth on it, and Cummins uses a 1 1/4 inch shaft with 22 teeth. Now, the early cases and the later cases, this is a 97, built in 96, and this is a 95. The cases and everything are the same, but what is different about an earlier style is the case itself is drilled differently for bell housings, and where the bearing retainer fits in, that hole is actually smaller than the later models. So in 96, GM changed their clutch design from 95 and earlier. The 95 and earlier used this type of bell housing right here. So they used that type of bell housing right here with a external slave cylinder that was mounted down here and pushed on a clutch fork like this, and would release the clutch. The 96 uses a internal slave cylinder, which I've unbolted already here, and this is just the bearing retainer. Cummins uses a fork type as well. So to get a 95 case to fit on a Cummins, you need to take a Cummins bearing retainer. This is a GM retainer, and you need to have the outer diameter here, right here. You need to have this milled down to fit in the old case. So you have to have these diameters matched. There is an up, and there's also a down. This is a drain, and this is the inlet for oil to flow through and get in the bearing. This bearing retainer only bolts on one way on a 95 case, that is. They're not drilled in a square pattern, it's more of like a trapezoid. So you do need to be precise with re-drilling your holes. Other than that, that's all you need to have done to the bearing retainer to fit on a 95. The input shaft, as long as it has 22 teeth, will fit on the 95. Now, to put an input shaft in on like a 94 or a 93, you can't do it unless you change the internal gears. So you're kind of out of luck unless you really want to go through the process. The other thing is the Chevrolet has a 32 spline output for transfer cases, and that fits on Borg Warners. I don't know about NP241s, so that's another something you're gonna have to look into. The 95 and earlier ones don't have a synchronized reverse. That 96 and later models, Dodge and Chevy, have synchronized reverse so you don't grind. So the 96, you can actually just change the input bearing retainer and the input shaft and just throw it right in it. It'll fit. 95, you can't. So if you're doing the swap, prefer to try to find a 96, but it's not impossible to get a 95 to work, as I have done. To get it to work, I re-drilled these upper holes here. I didn't really re-drill them. I took a grinder and went in and ovaled them out upwards, because the Cummins bell housing, if you were to just bolt it right up, it'd actually sit too low. It wouldn't fit around the bearing retainer correctly. So you do need to re-drill all 4 holes for a 95 case. All right. So just for an example here, you can actually take this and put it right over a Chevy. It fits right on that, no problem. All right. This one will fit too. I'll go right in on there. This one, this is a 95 style. This won't fit. It won't fit on there. So the outer diameters were different as well. So next I'm going to change the input shaft on the 96 and show you how it's done. So to remove the bearing retainer on a 96, you just get a half-inch drive, remove all 4 bolts. All right, give that a couple whaps. Here's the thing, you got to be really careful when you remove this shaft because there's detents in there, I believe for 4th gear. You don't really want them to come out on you. They did on this one, and luckily I was able to find them. There's 3 springs and 3 detent balls, so if they do fall out, that's what you're looking for. Once you get that broken loose, just get a screwdriver in there. Alright, that's that. Now if you get a Now what I did was I purchased a new kit off eBay that came with a new retainer and a new bearing and input shaft, and the bearing already comes installed on the shaft, and the seal and race already come installed on the bearing retainer, so it's really nice. It was only like 150 bucks, and it comes with a new thrust bearing on it as well. So at this point you just pull the shaft out. Make sure you have this in neutral before you do this. You don't want those detents to pop out. I think they will if you have it in 4th gear or 3rd. So don't turn anything at this point. I don't think I would really recommend changing the thrust bearing. What's in there is probably a better quality from a new venture or GM or whatever you want to say. So I'm going to leave my old one in there because everything else in there is old anyway, so I don't think it really matters. So what I recommend here is Valvoline 75W90 full synthetic gear oil. It's rated for GL4 as well as GL5. I'm going to re-lube the bearing before I put the new input shaft in. Alright, and before we do that, I'm going to take this surface here and clean that up very well. And I'm just going to take a rag here, stuff it in here for now. And I'm going to grab my razor blade, and I'm just going to scrape away all this old crap. Once I have that cleaned up, I'm going to leave the original thrust bearing in there. I kind of trust it a little more. It doesn't have that many miles on it anyways. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up a new quart container here of Valvoline 75W90 full synthetic GL4 rated transmission oil. I've had really good luck with this oil in these transmissions. I've had no problems shifting, and you know, that's what the standard specs were for the original GM transmission oil anyways, was GL4 full synthetic 7590. So and you can find this at your local parts dealer. Shouldn't have a problem with that. So I'm going to change that bearing though. Alright, so I'm going to pre-lube this one. First I'm going to stick it in the housing here for the shaft. Just get a little bit in there. Pre-lube that. Just kind of just spin it around here. Get some on the surface here where it turns. I'm going to take it, put it in here. Alright, so there it is on the gears. After you get the shaft on, you're ready to put your bearing retainer on. And what I'm going to do is just kind of wipe the oil off that from shipping off this first. I'm going to use a gray Permatex sealer. This is what I really like to use on most gasket surfaces. It just works really well, and you really don't need that much. And I'm going to take my hand and wipe it down. I want to try to avoid getting it in that hole there for the oil fill and oil drain. Then what I'm going to do is just put a little oil on the bearing here. And take the input shaft, bearing retainer, and put it on. Try to find the top here. Get a dead blow hammer. There it is. So the bolt is a 5/16 with 18 threads per inch, and it's approximately 7/8 to 13/16 inches long, and they have a shouldered head as well. So make sure that the bolts line up and get them started. And they get torqued to about 20 to 22 pound-feet, and you just want to put a little bit of some of that gray on them too. So that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this interesting. If you wanna, if there's something else you need to know or want to know, just leave me a comment. I'll definitely try to help you the best I can. There are specifications on the input shaft, end play, and axial play, but unfortunately I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going into tearing down this transmission. This is just a work truck. It's not a performance vehicle. I haven't had issues with my 95. I never did that. And to find those specifications and make adjustments, you have to tear down the whole transmission to do it. So I think most people like me aren't gonna even attempt to do that. You have to either bring it to a transmission shop or just go through it yourself, which I'm not doing that. It's already got 70,000 miles on it, and the old one had over 200,000 miles on it, and at that time, you know, they do have play in them, so it doesn't really matter. So thanks again for watching. Take it easy.